Hey everyone, Reaper here again with another video. This is, I don't have any books to show off in this video, and I know I've been making more and more videos like this where I really don't show books or too many books, but I promise you, those videos are yet to come. I didn't want to do another Reaper Picks, not just yet, until I put a little more thought into it and see what the next Reaper Picks topic would be. So I'll probably be working on that over the next month. Basically, with this video, I just wanted to talk about a couple of updates, what's going on with me, and wanted to address a couple of things that were mentioned in Luther Manning's Week in Review that came out yesterday, which I thought was a really good video, and I think a lot of us can relate to some of the things that he had spoken about. So I'll put the link to that video at the bottom here. So I'll get more on that in a little bit. I also wanted to touch up briefly on a couple other things, topics for comic book collecting and so forth. As for me, once again, with the update, a couple of updates with videos that I plan to make. Once again, I got a couple of hauls planned. April and June are complete. I just maybe want to add one more book to June, see if I can do it. If not, it'll go accordingly. It'll come out in June, and I think pretty much everyone knows what the August haul is going to be. I think everyone pretty much knows what book is going to be in that one. If you do not know what book that is going to be in that one, great. But if you want a little spoiler, you could always check out the last Wednesday chat that me, Patrick, and Nick had last week. You get a pretty good idea what it is. Needless to say, I'm very happy. But the reason why that I'm putting that one off is for a couple of reasons, but some of the big ones to me is I would like to add just a couple more books to that haul. I think by August, which is a lengthy amount of time, 5-6 months from now, I'll be able to get a couple of books, maybe a few more books to add to that haul. So that's the reason why I'm delaying it, or one of the big reasons why. But I've teased what it is, and I even put it in a Facebook low grade collecting Facebook page. So some of you may have seen it, some of you may have not, some of you may not care. That's okay. So what's important is it matters to me. So that's the update with that. I'm still going to try to do a couple of those video game videos. I know not too many people are interested in those, but those are a labor of love for me. I enjoy talking about some of those things, and I'm going to try to get some of those out within the next week or two. So for those that are interested in that, those will be coming out shortly. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about comics now. Enough with the updates, enough with the video game talk and all that stuff. Let's talk about why you're here, to talk a little bit about comics. Like I said, I'm sorry I don't have any books to show in this video, so that's always kind of a bummer for people that want to see books and all that stuff. But there are plenty of other channels to check out that are constantly showing different types of books. So there's plenty of stuff out there. But this is mainly just for discussion and all that. Okay. I think one of the big topics that comes up every now and then is how much should you spend on a comic book? How much, what should I spend on this particular book and what on that particular book? Now, many of you out there may already have this down. I have an idea what to spend on certain books. Obviously, it depends on the book, right? But how do you find out what you think is what would be a good price to pay for a certain book? I know some people like to ask other collectors what they spend on certain books. Others may do different things. I think, this is just my opinion. It doesn't mean that I'm right. It doesn't mean I'm wrong. And it doesn't mean you have to follow the advice that I'm about to give. And it doesn't mean you shouldn't follow the advice I'm about to give. It's entirely up to you, to each his own. But I've found that whenever I'm looking to buy a book, now mainly a big key, in particular the one that I purchased recently for the August haul, and anything like that, anything big, you should do your own research. That's the best advice that I can give. I think that's the best advice some of the other old-time collectors can give. How do you do that? Well, things are much easier today when it comes to finding out how much you should spend on a comic book than they were, let's say, back in 1995, 1996. There are so many free resources out there to help you. And I think many of you already know the answer to this, or the answers to this. If I were looking to get, let's say, a Journey into Mystery 83, some of the things that you have to ask yourself, okay, what grade realistically am I going for? I mean, I think most people that are hunting those big books have a clue to maybe how expensive they are. They may not know exactly how much, but I think they have an idea. I think at least they have an idea that it's going to be a pricey book. So going into trying to get a Journey into Mystery for $50 isn't gonna work, no matter what grade it is. So it's good to try to figure out what you think you can get. Do you want a 2.0? Do you want a 4.5? Stuff like that. So once you figure out what type of grade you would like, because some of us like books that look really good. Some of us don't mind books that are lower graded, as long as they present reasonably well. So you should be able to have an idea what grade you're looking for when it comes to a major book purchase. So like I said, I'm using Journey into Mystery 83, the first appearance of Thor, which is a major book purchase. So let's say, well, I don't want something that's restored. Okay, restored's out. I don't want something that's too low, so you probably don't want a 1 or a 0.5 or a 1.5. But I don't mind something that is low. Well, maybe you want something that's 2.5 or 3.0. Okay, the first place I would go is eBay. I would look at what's being sold, and I would look at what was sold in a 3.0 category for Journey into Mystery. That's the first thing I would do. Other resources, free resources, heritage.com. Those type of books like Journey into Mystery 83, Tales of Suspense 39, Amazing Fantasy 15, they're constantly being sold. There's plenty of them out there in many different grades. So looking up on eBay, looking up in Heritage, it's not going to be too difficult to find the grade that you're looking for at an average, on an average it's going for. So that's what I would do. Now let's say Journey into Mystery at 3.0 goes for $3,500. On average. When looking at Heritage, when looking at eBay, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to spend $3,500, but it gives you an idea that, yeah, Journey into Mystery 3.0 is not going to cost you $500. You probably should come to the table with a decent amount of money. Now, you may not want to spend $3,500. You may only want to spend $2,800 or $3,000 or whatever. Well, is it possible to get it for that price? Maybe, if you're patient, if you really stick with your guns and be patient and not be so impulsive with your buying, it's possible. But, at least you have an idea. And I think both of those sites are excellent resources. There are other free resources out there on the web that I'm not even mentioning that you may know of that will help you decide the same. Same thing, you could look in Overstreet. Now, I personally think that Overstreet is a little obsolete, but I do know that whenever I go to cons, there are dealers that are flipping open the Overstreet whenever you ask them how much this is, how much that is. But be advised, once again, this is maybe something that you're already aware of. When you go to a con, like not one of those local cons, but like when you go to a big con, a Baltimore con or a New York con or a San Diego con, those guys are going to overcharge you most of the time because they have to pay the fees that they put into being there, whether it's paying for a table or whatever. They want to make as much as they can to pay those fees or even pay what they put into that book. So sometimes it's a little harder. It's always best to go to those cons with cash. Now, what I mean by cash doesn't necessarily mean you have to pull out a wad of cash. It's always good to have stuff in your PayPal or in your bank account that you could transfer over to the dealer and do it that way. Because I don't advise walking into a con with $5,000, $2,000, because what happens if you got robbed or what happens if something happened? That's a large amount of money to lose, So you want to protect yourself, of course. But those are just some things to think about. If you're going to a big time con or, something like that, and you're looking to get a book and you have an idea using some of those free resources on what to spend, sometimes a cash offer will help you get closer to what you want to spend. Sometimes you won't have to overpay. But other resources that you can use to get an idea how much a book is worth is if you don't mind paying $100 a year or $10 a month, whatever it works out to, so it's about $120 a year if you do it that way, is GPA. You could see latest sales, trends. Is the book going up? Is the book going down? How much has it gone up in the last 90 days? How much has it gone up in the last year? It's an excellent resource, and I think for $10 a month, if you're really in this hobby and you're looking to get big boy books or big daddy books, as the great legend calls them, and as I have called them and others in the community, it may not be a bad idea to have something like that. Now, you may not like the idea of paying. Okay, I could understand that, but it's still, for those of you that don't mind paying, it's a great resource to use. And but I really think that some of the best are Heritage. In particular, I think eBay is wonderful. And I think a lot of people don't want to spend eBay prices. Well, hey, I'm with you. I understand that. Sometimes maybe you could get a deal on Instagram or Facebook. But if you don't want to spend eBay prices, that's fine. But if something's going for $2,000, no one's going to give it to you for $200. I mean, at least I don't think. If somebody does give it to you for $200, congratulations. But I think most of the time that's not going to happen. So if you're looking to buy a book that's $1,000, $2,000, you might want to try to get as close as you can to saving up that kind of money. Like I said, you may not have to spend $2,000. You may only have to spend $1,700 or $1,500, depending on what the situation is, right? But that will give you a ballpark on what to spend on a book. I think that's the best way. Yeah, so I would go with that. Let me check I wrote down a couple of things. As you know me, I always got to write down notes because I always forget stuff. One last thing. When it comes to, buying on eBay, as probably, once again, some of you already know. Let's say something's at a buy it now. Not with the best offer option, but a buy it now. If you try to build a rapport with some of these dealers on eBay or even in real life at conventions, they may be more inclined to give you that deal or be reasonable that you're that you would like to get on a certain book. I've always found that this approach may not always work all the time, but it has worked in the past. Believe me, I've gotten some of my bigger books, like my Batman 121, off of eBay, taking this approach and paying, a couple $100 less than what somebody was selling it for at a buy it now. So if you try to be, not to say that you wouldn't be friendly, because I think we'll all try to be friendly. Try to be friendly with the dealers or the sellers. Try not to give any sob stories, like, oh man, I can only afford this much. I mean, sometimes that's not going to work. I mean, you want to try to be, I guess, as honest and as you can. I mean, honesty may be the fact that you can't afford it, but there can always be other people contacting that dealer that can or can afford a little more than you. So you got to keep that in mind. One of the worst things that you can do, and I've talked to my LCS owner about this, and I agree with him 100%. Never approach a dealer, whether it's in person or a seller online, as if you're owed something. Some of you may say, well, no, I would never do that. Surprisingly, there are a lot of people that do that. A lot of people that expect discounts. There are a lot of people that expect because they're buying 2 or 3 books that, hey, you should give me a discount. And, that would be cool. I would agree with that. But even if you want something like that, don't try to approach it. Don't try to approach the dealer as if it's owed to you. Because that will piss a lot of people off. I know if I were in that position, hey, if I'm selling stuff, I have no problem with trying to give somebody, be reasonable or try to give a deal. But when someone comes to me and tries to, educate me on how much a book should be, F you. That's the way I look at it. I could wait. I don't need to pay my rent. I don't need to sell something to pay my rent. I don't need the money. Maybe some other people do, and I don't know, maybe that could work to your advantage, but I would think that most of the time it wouldn't. But that's just something that I was talking about with my LCS owner that came up. He had a recent experience like that over the last week, and the guy was a flipper. I see him at cons. I see him at the East Coast Con. I see him at the Garden State Con. The guy that went in there acting like he shouldn't have to pay tax on something, that he bought a couple of books and he should probably get a book for free. I mean, you know, it's like what my LCS owner said, that, hey, I'm more than willing to try to give you a bit of a discount. If you're going to sell these books and make money on them, then fine. But don't come in and start trying to educate me on what should be what you deserve. So, but if you try to, be friendly and kind, you might get something that you want for a lot less. You never know. Moving along, I'll try to be brief. This is the part where I wanted to touch up a little bit on Patrick's video, Luther Manning, about mean-spirited comments and so forth and so on. Now, I've noticed that some people in the comic book community that may have experienced mean-spirited comments or bullying or something like that, no longer, you could give them a thumbs up or a thumbs down, but you don't see how many thumbs up or how many thumbs down they got. And, hey, I can understand that could be really hard to look at, seeing somebody giving you 5, 10 thumbs down. It does get to you. But sometimes you got to keep in mind that sometimes these people that are doing that are like what Patrick said in his video. Most of the time, maybe not all the time, but I would say most of the time, these guys or gals, I don't know, I'm willing to bet guys, are don't make videos of their own. They're experts on everything, and usually they're not. And they don't have the courage to show their faces, because probably they're afraid they're going to get exactly what they're dishing out. So I wouldn't let thumbs down. I get thumbs down. I always get a few of them. Sometimes I don't, but sometimes I do. I'm sure I'll get some for this video. Oddly enough, that video game video I made in May, my top 25 or top 12 or whatever the hell it was, rare games in my collection, that got like the most thumbs down. Either it was from disgruntled comic book fans that's like, hey, I don't watch you for video games, I want to see comics. Or from video game players that are pissed off that I dare say the rarest game that everyone has is Panzer Dragoon Saga. Well, it's true. If you watch some of these gaming channels, and not all of them, of course, everyone seems to have Panzer Dragoon Saga. So do I. But I wouldn't let it bother. Don't take it to heart too much. You have your fan base out there that like you, that leave positive comments, that give you thumbs up. That's whenever I watch a video, I always give it a thumbs up. Occasionally, I'll forget to give it a thumbs up, but I do not give thumbs down. I don't. If I don't like what you're saying, or if I find it kind of offensive, I just walk away. I won't comment, and I won't leave a thumbs down, because it's like, whatever. What the hell's that going to do? I walk, and I probably won't watch again. Or maybe I'll give you another chance some other time. But that's just the way I am. So, I'm sure most of us are like that. As for the negative comments, I think the thumbs down, what I was just talking about with the thumbs down ties into that. Sometimes people I've noticed that leave very passive-aggressive comments, and they try to pretend that they're not being passive-aggressive. Well, believe me, I've counseled plenty of passive-aggressive people in the past. I know exactly what it is, no matter what people say. And I think most people do too. You don't need to have masters to figure that one out. But, hey, sometimes it's best not to engage them, even though you may want to. But, just walk away. Sometimes it's best to walk away. Sometimes it's hard to walk away. But I wouldn't give any of their videos, if they make videos, which I highly doubt they do, I wouldn't give them the time of day. It's just me. And just move on and continue doing what you're doing. Collect what you love. we've heard that over and over again, and it's a very good advice, which came from hippie comics and it's passed down to so many others that use it over and over again, such as myself and others. Just continue doing what you're doing. Before I go, I know this has been a long video, 20 minutes, me rambling on without showing you a damn thing. I apologize for that, but hey, if you want a sneak preview of what I'm going to show you in August, just watch our latest Wednesday chat. But like I said, my collecting has changed. You know, I would say most of the books on my top 12 list, I decided, you know, I don't need these this year. I may never need them. I'm moving in a direction of picking up a couple of books that I really want and doing some upgrades. So it's like half and half this year, going well into next year. It's hard to make a top 10 or top 5 or top 12 list, you know, with my new way of thinking for the year, because it's something that's probably going to take a year and a half, 2 years. And I find what I'm doing now, instead of just trying to pick up every key, as I mentioned in my previous video, trying to pick up every damn key, I find that what I'm doing now is much more rewarding. Thank you all for watching, and I will talk with you soon. Take care.